Desired learning outcomes. Define what is outcome-based education. Identify the 4 principles in OBE. Describe how teaching and learning relate to OBE. Describe how assessment of achieved learning relate to OBE. Describe the learner's responsibility in learning through OBE. Definition of outcome-based education. One of the advocates of OBE in the early years is William Spady. He defined outcome-based education as clearly focusing, organizing everything in the educational system around the essential for all students to do successful at the end of their learning experience. This is made up of knowledge, understanding, skills, and attitudes that students should acquire to make them reach their full potential and lead fulfilling lives as individuals in the community and at work. Spady premised that in outcome-based education, all students can learn and succeed, but not at the same time or in the same way. Successful learning promotes even more successful learning. Schools and teachers control the condition that will determine if the students are successful in school learning. 4 essential principles in OBE. In order to comply with 3 premises, 4 essential principles should be followed in either planning, instruction, teaching, and assessing learning. Principle 1. Clarity of focus. A clear focus on what teachers want students to learn is the primary principle in OBE. Teachers should bear in mind that the outcome of teaching is learning. Principle 2. Designing backwards. This principle is related to the first. At the beginning of a curriculum design, the learning outcome has to be clearly defined. Principle 3. High expectation. Establishing high expectation, challenging standards of performance will encourage students to learn better. Principle 4. Expanded opportunities. In OBE, all students are expected to excel, hence equal expanded opportunities should be provided. Teaching learning in outcome-based education. Teachers must prepare adequately. This can be done if the teachers know what they want students to learn and what teaching outcomes to achieve. Prerequisite knowledge is important, thus a review is necessary at the start of a lesson. Teachers must create a positive learning environment. Students should feel that regardless of individual uniqueness, the teacher is always there to help. Teacher and student relationship is very important. The classroom atmosphere should provide respect diverse kind of learners. Teachers must help their students to understand what they have to learn, why they should learn it, and how will they know that they have learned. Teachers must use a variety of teaching methods. The most appropriate strategy should be used taking into account the learning outcome teachers want the student to achieve. Also to consider are the contents, the characteristics of the students, the resource available, and the teaching skill of the teachers. Even if OBE is learner-centered, sometimes more direct, time-tested methods of teaching will be appropriate. Teachers must provide students with enough opportunities to use the knowledge and skills that they gain. When students do this, they can explore with new learning, correct errors, and adjust their thinking. Application of learning is encouraged rather than the mere accumulation of these. Teachers must help students to bring each learning to a personal closure that will make them aware of what they have learned. Assessment of learning outcomes in OBE. Assessment in OBE should also be guided by the 4 principles of OBE, which are clarify of focus, designing backwards, high expectation, and expanded opportunities. It should also contribute to the objective of improving students' learning. Learners' responsibility for learning. In OBE, students are responsible for their learning progress. Nobody can learn for the learners. It's only for the learner himself who can drive himself, thus learning is a personal matter. Teachers can only facilitate that learning, define the learning outcomes to be achieved, and assist the students to achieve those outcomes.
Lesson 2. Enhanced Teacher Education Curriculum anchored on OBE. Desired outcomes of the teacher education programs, ideal graduate of teacher education program competencies. Questions like, what kind of teacher do we desire to graduate in the future? What kind of teacher will you be? What qualities will you possess? To address these questions, it is necessary that the desired competencies and outcomes of the teacher education curriculum be clearly stated. Recognizing the demand of the K-12, the framework of National Competency-Based Teacher Standards or NCBTS and global requirements of ASEAN 2015. A need to harmonize the teacher competencies is very critical. With OBE, these competencies will form the desired outcomes of the teacher education program. With the current imperatives of 21st century, the teacher education curriculum must emphasize teachers' values, skills, and knowledge that are fundamental to good teaching. Competencies for all future teachers in the teacher education curriculum. It is desired that all graduates of any teacher education program should have the following competencies to be ready to teach in the classroom. Here are the suggestions based on CMO 30S 2004 and the NCBTS. Using the National Competency-Based Standards as a frame, as a global Filipino teacher, let us analyze the intended learning competencies/outcomes that are addressed by the different NCBTS domains. TVSE Progress Report of 2013. From the identified competencies, standards, and outcomes, the ideal graduate of the teacher education program as a new breed of teachers are multiliterate, reflective, master subject content, highly skilled, sensitive to issue, multicultural, innovative, highly professional, lifelong learner. Teacher education curriculum, an example. Using the OBE framework, the competencies previously stated are now translated into outcomes. These are outcomes we need to see in every graduate. Content and pedagogy to achieve the outcomes. Having identified the outcomes of the program, how will universities, schools, and departments form the future teachers? First, we need course or degree content. To become a teacher, a college degree is required. A degree is made up of course or subjects which are clustered as general education courses, professional courses. There are similarities as well as differences in the required number of subjects and courses that are recommended for teachers in the elementary and secondary teaching. Let us look at the examples. There are common courses for both levels of teaching. In the professional teacher education courses, both will have almost the same with one or two courses that are different to address the context of the grade level they will teach. Methods of teaching and teaching delivery mode. The modes of teaching should be varied to address the different kinds of learners. Time-tested methods as well as current and emerging strategies shall be utilized. This should be student-centered, interactive, integrative, and transformative. Courses should enhance the concept of learning how to learn for future teachers. The delivery modes may vary from the traditional face-to-face, online, and experiential learning approaches. When these modalities are combined in one course, it is called blended approach. The use of technology for teaching and learning in all subject areas is encouraged so that every future teachers will develop the skills to be ready to guide future learners, most of whom are digitally skilled. A very strong field-based experience in teacher education where pre-service teacher students are immersed to the actual classroom is necessary. This will enable the students to gain experiential learning through observation, teaching assistantship, and practice teaching. Whatever methods of teaching or delivery modes to be used by the teachers are clearly written in a course design or syllabus prepared by the faculty and shared to students. Assessment of learning. College learning shall be assessed in similar manner as all other means of assessment. It has to be remembered that in the Philippine Qualification Framework or PQF, there are 3 levels of competencies that all undergraduate students should possess as evidence of their learning outcomes. This refers to level 6 of the PQF, which is described as level 1, knowledge, skills, and values. Level 2, application of KSV, and level 3, degree of independence. Every subject has established a set of desired learning outcomes to be achieved at the end of the course. These learning outcomes should be evaluated so as to confirm if they have to be achieved. For example, in a subject curriculum development, the desired course outcomes are: how will we know that the students have arrived or achieved the learning outcomes? We need to assess this with the use of varied assessment tools and procedure as mentioned in previous modules. The assessment procedure and tools should be appropriate for the learning outcomes to be measured so as to be valid and reliable. In summary, the teacher education curriculum that approaches the OBE model for classroom practice begins with the end in view by establishing program outcomes at the start. It is followed by the course content, pedagogy, and assessment, but the 3 components are linked to each other.